Hello and thank you for watching. This is STSC back again with LEGO Transformers Cheetor. Cheetor was Beast Wars' requisite kid appeal character. And as a kid who watched Beast Wars, I definitely was a fan of him. So I'm really happy to have finally built him in LEGO. Unfortunately, due to the realities of LEGO, he can't really have his black spots. I did try and sprinkle in some black here or there to kind of emulate the spots just a little bit, but he kind of just looks like a generic yellow cat more so than a specific cheetah or any other kind of breed. He also does, unfortunately, have some robot kibble, like the bits of his legs poking out here, or some very suspicious golden arms hanging out on his belly. But that kind of kibble is kind of unavoidable when tackling Cheetor's design, so really I don't mind it that much. I think Cheetor's head is maybe a little bit blockier than it should be, but I went for stability over looks in this case. For articulation, Cheetor's head can just barely look up, but I think it's just enough that it can be used in posing. Then his forelegs can swing out like this, and then they also have two joints at the knees, one that goes in the wrong direction and one that goes forward, and his little paw also is on a hinge, so you can move it around like this. At the midriff, he has a ball joint, which allows his torso to bend and swivel pretty naturally. The rear legs, unfortunately, are mostly useless. They can kick back like this, but they can't really move forward at all. You can bend this joint forward, and you can bend the toe a little bit, but I don't really think it looks any good. His tail is made out of cut flex tube, so you can bend it into a different pose, and it is articulated at the base so it can go up and down. Cheetor's cheetah mode is definitely not a complete statue, but you're not really going to be able to get into too many interesting poses. For size comparison, here we have a minifigure, and here we have Optimus Primal. That's all there is to say about this cool cat, so now it's time to maximize. And here we have Cheetor in his robot mode. And right off the bat, I want to say that I really wish I could have gotten the gray pieces to be a little bit more blue. In the show, his model uses a bluish silver color, and I think the closest LEGO approximation would probably be something like sand blue. But not all of these pieces come in that color, or at least not yet, so I had to stick with the basic light gray. His head is very basic, and unfortunately due to transformation, it's mounted a little bit further forward than it should be. He ends up with a major cat leg backpack. In the show, they shrink down to look less silly, but unfortunately I can't exactly do that with LEGO. I'm pretty happy with how his lower body ended up, and I like how the bottoms of his paws create the little rounded knee pads he has. His arms ended up entirely gold. In the show, I believe he has little yellow cheetah panels on his wrists, but unfortunately I didn't manage to capture that detail, and I think it makes his arms look a little bit awkward. I've built one accessory for Cheetor, and that's his gut gun, which can simply clip into his hand. For articulation, Cheetor has an awkward neck. You can see his head is connected by a skeleton arm here, and you can kind of use it for articulation to make him look up or kind of down, but it can get awkward really quick if you don't know how to use it. At the shoulder, he has a universal joint, which allows his arm to swing out and forward and back. Then at the elbow, he has a hinge that can bend 180 degrees. He has the same midriff ball joint, which can allow for some ab crunch and rotation. Then his hips are universal joints, which can go forward and back and in and out, though you have to be careful because his knee is also on a joint like this, just due to how it's built. Then his knee can bend about 90 degrees. On paper, Cheetor has a fair bit of articulation, but I find the lack of any swivels on his knees can make posing him a little bit stiff. For size comparison, here we have a minifigure and Optimus Primal. And I really love how these two look together. I think Cheetor makes a few more sacrifices than Primal did. And as such, both of his modes ended up a little bit more rough. But I'm still happy with the build, and really glad to have this character represented in LEGO. But that's all I have to say about Cheetor, so I'll see you next time.